Hey everybody! So I'm going to be showing you today how to make the freezer paper stencils using the Cricut. I'm using the Maker, but this will work on pretty much any cutting machine that I'm aware of. So the freezer paper is really thin and can tear really easily when you're trying to cut it. So I'm going to show you just a trick that I found that helps eliminate this. Okay, so I'm here at the computer and this is the design that I'm going to try to cut. You'll notice that it's really intricate and I was having nothing but trouble when I was trying to cut this with my Cricut Maker, and it kept tearing my paper no matter what setting or what pressure I tried. So here's basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend that the freezer paper is a vinyl, a sheet of vinyl, and basically treat it that way. So a couple of things you're going to need is some heat transfer paper, and you can use stuff from old vinyl if you have it as well. This particular stuff that I have is the Scissor Easy Mask, and so this is heat transfer vinyl heat transfer tape basically. Okay, so it's the same stuff that comes on your sheets of vinyl. Then here's just the freezer paper that you traditionally use. When you get the freezer paper, make sure it's actually freezer paper, so it's paper on one side and waxy or shiny on the other. Okay, so my settings that I'm going to use, I'm going to actually set this to vinyl. So I'm going to pretend that this is a sheet of vinyl when I cut it instead of selecting anything else. And then of course we want to make sure that our mirror is on because we're treating this just like a vinyl decal. Okay, so let's get ready to cut. Okay, so I'm putting the stuff on my mat here. Okay, so here's that the heat transfer tape that I was showing you earlier. So I'm going to remove the backing, and I would save the backing because you can actually reuse this transfer tape. And I'm going to load this onto my mat so that I have the sticky side up. Okay, so sticky side is facing up, and then I'm going to load my freezer paper backwards of what you would see in most videos. They tell you to put shiny side down. I'm going to put shiny side up, and that's why we did the mirror image earlier on our design. So you can see we've basically mimicked a vinyl decal. We have the transfer tape on our mat, and then we have the freezer paper here stuck to our transfer tape. Now we'll take it to the machine. Okay, so I'm going to load my mat into the machine. And we'll get ready to cut this. So remember, we're cutting it mirror image with the freezer paper shiny side up. Okay, so let's let that cut. Okay, so it's all done cutting. I'll try to bring that in close without the glare. But you can see there's not a single tear or rip or any place on the freezer paper that was pulled up through the cutting. So next thing we're going to do is weed our image just like we would with vinyl. Okay, so I'm going to pull out basically all the places that I want the paint to show up. And I'll just kind of start this to show you, and then I will finish this. Okay, so just like a vinyl decal, I'm pulling up the unwanted areas of the freezer paper, basically where I want my paint to go, just like we're weeding a vinyl decal. Okay, so you can see how nicely. So underneath here is still the contact paper or the transfer paper. We didn't cut through that. We did a kiss cut using the vinyl setting. Okay, some of this is really tiny. There's no way that my machine would have cut this without this method because some of these cuts are just so intricate. You can see how thin that line is. Another really nice part about this is when I go to put this on my shirt, I will have all of these little pieces in place. So I won't have to try to put them all in there by hand and guess where they go. They'll all be ready to go. by using the transfer paper. So, let's see. Definitely need some better lighting for this. You can, of course, pull this off and weed it, especially if you have a light or something to use underneath. So I will finish weeding this, and then I will show you the finished image. Okay, so I have most of this weeded, and I was struggling in the beginning. So what I did is I actually changed my setting to do a twice cut, and so it cut the image once with the vinyl setting, and then cut the image once more. And again, I'm using the Maker, and I think the Explorer Air is the same way. I went in and modified my vinyl setting so that the pressure was 111. It was originally set at 107, so I just added 4 points on pressure, and then I did a twice cut, 2 times cut. So that little bit of pressure and basically the twice cut was really what helped a lot. So you'll probably want to modify yours as well, or play around with your machine and see what cuts best. So it's cutting now just like vinyl, and I just wanted to finish weeding this on the camera so you could see just how easy it comes off, just like it would a vinyl decal or heat transfer vinyl. So the beautiful part about this is everything is weeded, everything is in place still that I want to be kept there, and again it's all stuck on that transfer tape so that when I go to put it on my shirt everything is in place. So we'll go ahead and do that next. Okay, so I have my freezer paper laying down on my clothing, and you can see it's still attached to the transfer tape. Okay, so now transfer tape sitting on top, and the slick side or the shiny side of the freezer paper is facing down. I have my heat press set to 305 just like I would for normal vinyl. I don't know what really works and what doesn't. I just know that this does make it stick. And with an iron, you can watch some videos on that as well, but I think they say about 20 to 30 seconds on your highest cotton setting. So I'm just going to let that heat up for about 10 or 15 seconds. Okay. And then this should be ready to remove just like normal HTV transfer tape, so that comes off really smoothly. Set that aside because you can see that one's been used a ton, but usually they're reusable at least a few times. So freezer paper is nice and stuck on there. Okay. And so this is ready for painting. So how cool is that? And you wouldn't have been able to place all these little tiny pieces. I mean, you could have, but it would have been pretty tedious to try to do by hand. So here's another one that I did earlier that I think is pretty dry. It could probably stand to be a little drier, but I'm going to see if I can go ahead and start peeling this to show you how that works. And so this sticky part or the shiny part of the freezer paper that was pressed onto my shirt or ironed on is coming off really nicely. It doesn't leave any residue or anything like that, so that's awesome. Okay. This is still a little tacky. I would wait till it's completely dry. I waited probably 30 or 40 minutes on this one. It just wasn't quite long enough, but it's still coming off pretty nicely. Hopefully, I don't jinx myself. Okay, so that all came off, and then you could just use your weeding tool or a fingernail. Weeding tool is probably best to go in there and get these extra pieces. Okay, so that's all peeled up and done, and I actually have another stencil that I cut using the same process. And now that that's all dry, I will put this on here, line this up, and finish that off. So that'll be a different color. And that's the painted part. You can see it's kind of see-through in some spots. I kind of like that look sometimes. I think it's kind of cool. But you could always go over that again with some different paint. And the paint I'm using is just a variety of the tulip. Okay, it's the brush on. Make sure it's not the 3D or the dimensional paint. And the grain that's on that shirt is actually Fabric Creations. And then they also sell, it's not in here, but they also sell a fabric medium that you can mix into normal acrylic paints. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you found that helpful. Have fun!